Hello, today we have a reading from A Course in Miracles. This is from Chapter 9, The Acceptance of the Atonement, Section 7, The Two Evaluations. Alright, Paragraph 1. God's will is your salvation. Would He not have given you the means to find it? If He wills you to have it, He must have made it possible and easy to obtain it. Your brothers are everywhere. You do not have to seek far for salvation. Every minute and every second gives you a chance to save yourself. Do not lose these chances, not because they will not return, but because delay of joy is needless. God wills you perfect happiness now. Is it possible that this is not also your will? And is it possible that this is not also the will of your brothers? So back to your brothers are everywhere, so that we learn and unlearn, we remember, we accept what we are through this portal of relationship. So our brothers are everywhere, and in them we find our salvation. In them we look deeply into them and see what it is we are. So these opportunities to be saved from the suffering we were intent on experiencing here are all around us all the time. So we learn to look at our divine siblings, or those we call other, in a very new, fresh, and now way. There is one thing within them. The love or the goodness without opposite, or the divine will for perfect happiness, is what's real about every single one I call other. And as I can look at that, focus on that, tune into that, and let everything else go, that's me accepting what's here for us. And as I accept it, I see you accepting it too. I share the ability as I use the ability. Okay, Paragraph 2. Consider then that in this joint will you are all united, and in this only. There may be disagreement on anything else, but not on this. This then is where peace abides, and you abide in peace when you so decide. Yet you cannot abide in peace unless you accept the atonement, because the atonement is the way to peace. The reason is very simple and so obvious that it is often overlooked. The ego is afraid of the obvious, since obviousness is the essential characteristic of reality. Yet you cannot overlook it unless you are not looking. So thank goodness, salvation is simple. It's obvious. There is one will we all share. And as we learn to look past anything that would distract us away from that, we remember there's peace within us all, and it's safe to tune into that and to let it lead. Consider then that in this joint will, the will we share with every being, regardless of what that being seems to be, that person seems to be up to, everybody has a will for peace, a will for happiness that's alive within them, and that can extend. So in this joint will, you are all united, and in this only. So if we consider what unites us in any situation, regardless of what seems to be anybody's past, regardless of what ego is anticipating for the future, regardless of what anybody has said, what anybody has done, this divine will for peace, for perfect happiness, is in everyone. And as we give that our attention, that's what we can see unfolding. But we have to make the decision that that's where we want to put our focus, and not on any of the distracting things ego would tell us. Okay, Paragraph 3. It is perfectly obvious that if the Holy Spirit looks with love on all he perceives, he looks with love on you. His evaluation of you is based on his knowledge of what you are, and so he evaluates you truly. And this evaluation must be in your mind, because he is. The ego is also in your mind, because you have accepted it there. Its evaluation of you, however, is the exact opposite of the Holy Spirit's, because the ego does not love you. It is unaware of what you are and wholly mistrustful of everything it perceives because its perceptions are so shifting. The ego is therefore capable of suspiciousness at best and viciousness at worst. That is its range. It cannot exceed it because of its uncertainty, and it can never go beyond it because it can never be certain. So back to the ego is therefore capable of suspiciousness at best and viciousness at worst. And we've all experienced a feeling of suspicion. We've all experienced thoughts that feel vicious. And that's not who we are. So when suspicious or vicious thoughts come to mind, it becomes increasingly clear to us, if I try to protect my ego, preserve my separate self through suspicion, and trying to wall off and protect the separate self, or viciousness, trying to attack and trying to battle, it's just going to be the same old cycle. And we might be ready to step out of those loops now, that when the mind suggests a thought that is part of this scale from suspicion that seems quieter to outright viciousness that seems loud. Doesn't matter if it's quiet or loud, small or big, it's on that same scale. And when the mind suggests a thought like this, it's not our thought, it's not my thought, it's not your thought, it's never been anybody's thought, but it's what we brought into apparent being in order to give ourselves this experience of strife. Check, we did it, and now we don't have to give those thoughts any consequence anymore. The only attention we should pay to those thoughts is when we have felt bad, when we need to find the thought we attach to and intentionally set it down, and then reorient to what is true. And I think what I'm reorienting toward today is, my Father gives all power unto me, or something like that. It's because everyone has all power. The power of goodness without opposite. Everyone possesses all real power. We can see fake power playing out in time and space and distract ourselves with that and call it important and try to struggle and engage with that. Or we can focus on the actual power everyone has right now and see what comes of maintaining that focus. Okay. Paragraph 4. You then have two conflicting evaluations of yourself in your mind, and they cannot both be true. You do not yet realize how completely different these evaluations are, because you do not understand how lofty the Holy Spirit's perception of you really is. He is not deceived by anything you do, because he never forgets what you are. The ego is deceived by everything you do, especially when you respond to the Holy Spirit, because at such times its confusion increases. The ego is, therefore, particularly likely to attack you when you react lovingly, because it has evaluated you as unloving and you are going against its judgment. The ego will attack your motives as soon as they become clearly out of accord with its perception of you. This is when it will shift abruptly from suspiciousness to viciousness, since its uncertainty is increased. Yet it is surely pointless to attack in return. What can this mean? Whoops, I just turned the page on my Kindle, so I'm going to find it again. Okay. Almost there. Okay. This is when it will shift abruptly from suspiciousness to viciousness, since its uncertainty is increased. Yet it is surely pointless to attack in return. What can this mean except that you are agreeing with the ego's evaluation of what you are? And when I don't feel good, I am agreeing with the ego's evaluation of what I am. So back to the ego is therefore particularly likely to attack you when you react lovingly, because it has evaluated you as unloving and you are going against its judgment. So when we feel really cringy sometimes after I have spoken in public, not so much when I do this here, but sometimes it'll just hit me powerfully later, like, oh, I'm just in this outright full cringe about something. And I just think, oh, whatever that was, I don't know, I don't feel good about it. And it's like this, when we express ourselves lovingly, sometimes the aftermath is an ego attack, our own ego. Or it could seem somebody else's ego is doing that same thing. It doesn't really matter which it is. But when we go against the ego's judgment, this increases the likelihood of attack, which is fantastic. Because in our own mind, when we don't feel good, and of course nobody feels good when ego is attacking, when our ego is evaluating us as lacking or not good enough or in error in some way. And if this makes ego come out of the closet and reveal itself, that's great, because we can meet it where it is. We can see what thought we attach to even make it possible for ego to seem to come up and attack in this way. And we can just sit very patiently. If you've ever worked with kids or animals, you know there are times when you just have to sit very patiently. And we can do this with the thoughts that reveal themselves, the thoughts that come in and say, you shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have spoken that way. You put yourself at risk. You made yourself vulnerable. When really love is invulnerable. Love is powerful. Love is power with, and love is power without opposite, goodness without opposite. So the ego is always wrong about that. And as we just notice the thoughts it's suggesting, and remember, we all have all power of goodness without opposite together, and refocus that way, then the ego attack can't hurt us, because all the ego can attack is the ego. It can't really attack what you are. What you really are with everyone is unassailable. It's invulnerable. So it just gives you another chance to tune into that and to rest there. Paragraph 5. If you choose to see yourself as unloving, you will not be happy. You are condemning yourself and must therefore regard yourself as inadequate. Would you look to the ego to help you escape from a sense of inadequacy it has produced and must maintain for its existence? Can you escape from its evaluation of you by using its method for keeping this picture intact? So back to, would you look to the ego to help you escape from a sense of inadequacy it has produced and must maintain for its existence? Ego needs you to see yourself as not good enough, and to continue to see yourself feeling that way. And the funny thing about it is, once the ego has labeled you not good enough, it then gives you advice for becoming good enough. And the way to meet thoughts like this is to remember that the being you are is good enough. It can't be anything ever other than goodness without opposite. And if in the immediate past of the person you think is you see speech or action that, ego's criticizing up one side and down the other, it really doesn't matter, because nothing that seems to happen in time or space can affect the goodness without opposite of the being you are. And as you focus on that in yourself and in everyone you call other, and even in everything, then time and space is given the invitation to be used as a tool for the love you are, for Holy Spirit, to use the tool of time and space to express and reflect back to, yes, this is the truth of you and everyone, your goodness without opposite together. And it's okay if we haven't come fully into that reflection yet, because this is the use that can be made of our experience of time and space. Okay, paragraph 6. You cannot evaluate an insane belief system from within it. Its range precludes this. You can only go beyond it, look back from a point where sanity exists, and see the contrast. Only by this contrast can insanity be judged as insane. With the grandeur of God in you, you have chosen to be little and to lament your littleness. Within the system that dictated this choice, the lament is inevitable. Your littleness is taken for granted there, and you do not ask, who granted it? The question is meaningless within the ego's thought system, because it would open the whole thought system to question. So, back to, you can only go beyond it, beyond the belief system. Look back from a point where sanity exists and see the contrast. That's what we do when we stop to notice how we feel. We're taking a step outside of the insanity of ego. And when we follow that thread from what we feel and find a thought we believe and bring that thought to the light, we're taking another step fully outside of the ego thought system. Now we're looking at it from the perspective of sanity. We're considering that thought. We know it doesn't feel good. We know it's a lie. We set it down. We reorient toward a sane thought. My Father gives all power unto me, all power for good, all power for gentleness, all power for transformation and healing and happiness. That's the power everyone has. And as I look on them as having that power, that's how I start to see indeed that they do have this power. That's how I start to see them using this power. I learn a single-minded focus on the single thing that is true about all of us. And all I have to do is I have to keep stepping away from the ego's belief system so I can look at it from outside and judge it to be insane. That's the type of judgment that helps everyone. Judging the ego thought, I believe, as an insane thought and having every reason to set it down. Okay, paragraph 7. I have said that the ego does not know what a real question is. Lack of knowledge of any kind is always associated with unwillingness to know, and this produces a total lack of knowledge, simply because knowledge is total. Not to question your littleness, therefore, is to deny all knowledge, and keep the ego's whole thought system intact. You cannot retain part of a thought system, because it can be questioned only at its foundation, and this must be questioned from beyond it, because within its foundation and this must be questioned from beyond it, because within it its foundation does stand. The Holy Spirit judges against the reality of the ego's thought system, merely because he knows its foundation is not true. Therefore, nothing that arises from it means anything. He judges every belief you hold in terms of where it comes from. If it comes from God, he knows it to be true. If it does not, he knows that it is meaningless. So this is very simple. Back to, therefore, nothing that rises from it, the ego thought system, means anything. And when I'm upset, I have given meaning to a meaningless thing. It's always very simple. So the thought I just believed, I have every reason to set it down. I have every reason to reorient toward the power of goodness without opposite, the power of peace that's real within every being, and to take my attention off anything else. All the problems the ego says needs to be solved, they're not going to be solved through my identifying as ego and trying to solve them as an ego. So I might as well just tune into what we are together and see what instructions lie in what we are together. What would you have me say? What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me think? We tune into guidance and we get used to following it. Okay, paragraph 8. Whenever you question your value, say, God himself is incomplete without me. Remember this when the ego speaks, and you will not hear it. The truth about you is so lofty that nothing unworthy of God is worthy of you. Choose then what you want in these terms, and accept nothing that you would not offer to God as wholly fitting for him. You do not want anything else. Return your part to him, and he will give you all of himself in exchange for the return of what belongs to him and renders him complete. That would be you. The truth about you is so lofty that nothing unworthy of God is worthy of you. Whatever the ego says to you, about anyone, if you don't feel good, you're listening to ego. Whatever it's saying, if it's not a gift you would give to God, it's not a gift to give to yourself either. So we can just set it down. And God himself is incomplete without us. So if we just orient ourselves toward being with God, complete, joined, returned, and being guided in this by Holy Spirit, then we can be supplied with thoughts. And thoughts cause perception. They cause perception of what we think is happening in our world. They cause perception of what we believe we're saying, of what we believe we're doing. It's all perception. Thoughts cause perception. And if we learn to rest in this quiet place, then we're supplied with the thoughts that cause the perception, that show us we're being altogether led through and out of the nightmare we originally wanted to have. But midstream we can understand, I've had enough, let's be done. And that's enough. That's all. We just need to decide, I want to go home. I want to be returned to full awareness of my completion in God, and then everything we need is given to us. Okay. Thank you.